Hi guys, JLA Shorts has now arrived. The best bits of the JLA channel in nugget form. Be a legend and subscribe to the channel by checking the link in the description. Cheers. Wow, 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 wee, wow, wow, woo, wow, 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 wee, wow, how, wowie, wow, was my reaction when I saw this trending on Twitter. Hello friends, welcome back to the James Lawrence Allcott channel. Bruno Guimaraes, signing of the window? Is this the signing of the window? It might bloody well be. How have they done this? That's what we're going to dive into. And what will he bring to Newcastle United? A lot is the short answer. But if you fancy a longer answer, then here it comes. Before we get into the video, 200k by my birthday. It feels like it can't be done. I think we need a few hundred subscribers every single video. So do me a favour, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell as well. And if by the end of this video you feel like you know a little bit more about Bruno Guimaraes, then sort me out with a like as well. Let's dive into this, because first of all, the questions that sort of pop into my head are how have they managed to get this guy? Because this guy, this is, just to put it into context, like, or take away a bit of context to give it context. That's right, triple context. This is a player who's like Champions League level ready, Brazilian, which is nice, 24, signing for a team battling relegation. And this is a player, a midfielder, that could go into an Arsenal team, go into a Spurs team, go into a Man United team and improve it and kind of demand a starting place as well. Background of Bruno Guimaraes, Lyon midfielder. We're going to dive into his style of play a little bit more, but in terms of £30 million, because a lot, these kind of numbers, you start to go, okay, 30 million quid, yeah, chuck it on the pile. But any player that Newcastle are going to get, you're going to wonder, are they playing over the odds for someone like this? And so you want to know about this kind of midfielder, because he's probably someone that a lot of people aren't that aware of. So he's a midfielder for Lyon. He has this sort of mix between kind of flair and a bit of like, do you know what I mean? He's got that little bit of drive about him, and his appreciation of possession, I think, is his greatest strength. He plays for a team in Lyon who love to keep the ball, and he's a huge part of that. He's averaging 84.2 touches per 90 for a team that is underperforming overall, and so you can kind of understand why he might have wanted to kind of make that move, the next step. But to go to Newcastle is such a coup for Newcastle United. It's absolutely amazing. Now, this is a player who made the move to Lyon just in January 2020 for 20 million euros at the time. He's having a fantastic season for Lyon as well. And as you can see, he can play in quite a few positions. Normally, when we're looking at the positions that a player plays in, it's, you know, is he a DM? If he's a DM, then he probably hasn't got the quality to be an attacking midfielder. But I think that kind of starts to give you a hint as to what this kind of player is like, because he has that ability to progress the ball really, really well. So much so that he can play as an attacking midfielder, he can play as a central midfielder, and he can play as a DM as well. So when you're thinking of a player like Bruno Guimaraes, and you're trying to think, who's he like? Kovacic. Think Kovacic, but think better defensively, but probably he's not going to score as many goals. So again, that kind of player, being able to bring him in to a team like Newcastle United, wow. It truly is wow. And I say Kovacic because he kind of plays in that 3-4-2-1. Bit like Chelsea play, where you have those narrow forwards and you have that double pivot in midfield. And one player progresses the ball, the other player comes and picks up the ball. So here's a recent game against PSG. He plays in that double pivot, as you can see there, alongside Maxence Caqueret. And he has a very different role to Caqueret. You've got that three at the back, and as I said, you can see they're quite isolated there. The reason they're quite isolated is because Lyon like to control the ball. And when you control the ball, your average positions have just that little bit more structure about it a lot of the time, and is a lot wider, because when you've got the ball with a bit of time on the ball, you can stretch out that little bit. But with that in mind, these players will often be looking for Maxence Caqueret. And Bruno Guimaraes, his role is actually to, at times, pick up the ball, sure, but actually be an option to then drive with the ball. Also, it's important for him to go and win the ball as well. So quite complete as a midfielder, really. And across all fronts, statistically, he's one of the best in Europe in terms of progressing the ball, because the quality that he has both with his passing, but also his ability to drive with the ball and win the ball, just makes him look really, really complete. And as is shown by his FBref. So as you look, you can see there's a lot of green there. He ranks really high in most metrics, to be honest. But he's in the top 2% for progressive carries per 90, 8.13, and progressive passes per 90, 7.49. Sorry. So what you have to concede with this is the style of play that Lyon have, which allows him to sort of have those stats and then maybe be that little bit higher because they are a possession-based side. However, he's still achieving those numbers. So the fact that he's achieving those numbers means that he has the ability to do that for a huge club in Ligue 1 like Lyon. So I think that's a really, really good marker. Add that to the fact that 2.5 successful tackles per 90 means that he's a player that will fit in really well with Newcastle in a very, very different style of play. Because if you think about how Newcastle play, it's quite direct. It's counter-attacking because they're a team at the bottom of the league. But if you pick up a player like him who's in that possession-based style, you would think he's a player that just gets on the ball and can't do much else. As you can see from those stats, he can do a bit of everything and take players out of the game. So he goes into that Newcastle side that plays counter-attacking football and direct football, and he's going to be super, super useful. So how have they managed to get him? I mean, it's a good question. I think we know one of the reasons, and it's his prerogative. But the fact that he's coming into a project, a Premier League project, a project where he's going to be an important part of it, and he can grow with it as long as they stay up. You can understand the merits for going to Newcastle United. Of course, unbelievable fan base, amazing place to play football, a manager where you can probably see the elements that are being kind of brought into the team. And then, of course, the money plays a part. It has to play a part. But the fact that he's moving to the Premier League, I think there's an element. It'd be dangerous for me to suggest why he's motivated to go to Newcastle United from Lyon. But Lyon are 11th in Ligue 1 at the moment. So that move to the Premier League makes sense generally. I think that when you look at Brazilians, they have a bit more of a tendency to follow the money a little bit. That's completely understandable when you think some of these players have come from the favelas or poverty and are looking to make hay as much as they can. Look at the likes of Oscar leaving Chelsea in his prime to go to China. Hulk didn't play in the top 5 leagues. Alex Teixeira, another player who, went to China despite interest from Premier League teams. So the reason they've got him is partly down to the money. It has to be. Like that's they're not short of dough. But there has to be the first guy that you sort of start to build your team around. And it feels like this is the kind of guy. One of those Man City players like, David Silva, that we didn't really know that much about him before he arrived. But once he did arrive, as time sort of took hold and those other dominoes fell into place to allow this Newcastle side to have a squad that's not looking at the Championship, but looking up into the top half, and then even more so, Europe, Champions League titles, which is where they're going, right? Because they do have so much money. You can understand why this is an appetizing one, especially when there's the sort of status quo at the moment with Lyon, and Ligue 1 is one that feels like it's struggling a little bit. Next question, of course, is what would Newcastle do with him in the team? How would they set up? So as I've said, when it comes to Lyon, Guimaráes has played in a double pivot. However, I think he's more likely to play as an 8. What will be interesting to see is with this with this Newcastle side who have tried 4, they've tried 5, they've tried several different formations, understandably, because they haven't been winning games. I think the formation that he wants to go to is a 4. And I think if you can get that centre-back in, Trippier, of course, is one of those players who's come in, and you saw by the amount of touches that he had, they want to use him as much as possible because he is so neat and tidy. You then come into the midfield, and John Joe Shelvey as that DM, I think, is of use, I think you can put him there, and it doesn't always have the legs. He kind of needs legs around him to give him the space and then give him options further up the pitch to have players to pass to. Yes, he's got that lethal shot on him as well. But really, I think they're quite comfortable with him kind of digging a hole a little bit. But again, you can see Eddie Howe, although at times it's going to have to be direct because this is a team that's going to maybe have to sit back a lot of the time because there isn't overall the quality that you want and they're in a relegation battle. But what you've got is players that will allow the team to move up the pitch. Shelvey is a good player on the ball, will be able to do that. Trippier, same again. Yes, can you get yourself a left back or a couple of centre backs? That would be nice, sure. But when we move into this midfield, I think, look, Joe Linton, he's been so good. He offers so much energy as well. Offers a bit of a target man at times as well. Can play out left as well. Can cover a lot of the time for Alan St-Maximin. I think you've got to keep him in the team. You have to keep him in the team. It's here. It's this number 8 position. This is where Bruno will play. And his ability to create something from nothing. Now, he doesn't score goals. 3 goals since 2019 in Ligue 1. But he is awesome when it comes to chance creation. 3 assists this season. Could easily been a lot more. His shot creating actions per 90 are 3.69 shot creating actions per 90, whilst playing a role that needs him to defend a lot of the time as well, is really, really impressive. So what I think might be the case here for a team that's not totally dominating is that you have Ryan Fraser, who again will offer a little buzz in terms of getting forward, but also willing to work back. Alan St-Maximin then plays here, as he has been doing, and it's going to be Wilson or Wood. Maybe this will change, and it'll be interesting to see what happens once Wilson is available, but let's put Wood there for now. And again, all of a sudden, you've got players who can progress and break the lines here in terms of Bruno, but you've got people who are at every level and lane of the team that are willing to be on the ball. Trippier, Shelvey, Bruno Guimaraes to a point, Alan St-Maximin to a point, and Wood will hold up the ball, of course, as well, and stick his bum out. So it's a team that I think at the moment is quite direct and is trying to utilise the energy that it has. But now with those kind of lovely little droplets of quality that you'll have around the pitch, you've now got a team that can start to dominate football matches, which I think is what Newcastle want, or certainly have a much better foothold to allow themselves to be higher up the pitch. It gives you a better chance of not conceding goals because you're not just defending for your lives and curling up in a ball and then hoping you can get a ball up to Callum Maximin and he can do something crazy for you. These are the kind of signings that I've been really impressed, if I'm honest, with Newcastle's transfer work in this January window. It's unexpectedly sensible to sign someone like Guimaráes. He's a player that I've been sort of talking about Newcastle and I'm thinking, who's the Vincent Kompany? Who's the guy that comes in who's like, wow, this guy's good. Let's start to build a team around this team. And maybe Guimaráes is the guy. You know, if you think of Wood has come in, he's a little bit older. Trippier, he's a little bit older. I think it was those 28-year-old older players that we thought were going to allow this team to kind of maybe stay up this season with their experience and their, I guess, the fact that they're a little bit more worn in terms of their experience, but also players that might be willing to drop in the Championship for a season because the money's so good. But a player like this is a player that Arsenal should have signed, Spurs should have signed, Man United could have signed, and they should be absolutely delighted with it. I'd love to know what everyone else thinks. I think he's going to bring a lot to this team, and with the sort of experience around him, it's not going to all be down to him. I think he'll be a player who maybe in the highlights package afterwards on Match of the Day, they talk about him. But in the moments, I think he'll offer just a moment of sort of spark that isn't the assist all the time, but is that little spark that creates something and takes other players out of the game, which then allows the runners that are there but are too deep at the moment to be that little bit further up the pitch. Hopefully that makes sense. I think he's going to link defence and midfield really, really well for the team, and just great energy both in midfield and attack for the team as well. I know I'm going a bit heavy on this one, but I just think it's a really, really smart one to get yourself someone who's good to go. And when you take him out of a team that is sort of big on possession and drop him in this team, and for it to make so much sense, it makes me wonder, like, who's the director of football here? Because whoever it is, they're actually doing an all right job. Or, you know, whoever's making these decisions when it comes to recruitment. Newcastle United fans, talk to me. Tell me how you're feeling. Is this the signing that will keep you up? How many more do you need before the end of the window to stay up? And fans of other clubs, are you a little bit worried when you see these kind of signings? This feels like it's the one, you know, in terms of, oh, okay, it's happening now. The wheels are starting to turn. Interesting signing. Let me know what you think. As I said at the start of this video, trying to get myself to 200k. I know I've gone too big, but maybe we can dream together, and maybe you can allow me, tease me, dangle me with a bit of hope. Why not? Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, check out the other content on the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.